Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
My name is JAWANZA MALONE. I'm the Executive Director with the Kenwood, Oakland Community Organization. We're here this morning because we have some big work that we have to do. The measure of any civilization is determined by the way it treats its children. And historically, we don't have the best track record in this town of treating our children well and making sure our schools are adequately funded and resourced. And today, there's a number of ordinances that will be introduced as a package to begin to turn that around. So we need your support as we move forward in making sure that our children have the best possible future in this town. We have a moral obligation to do everything we can to make sure that our schools are properly resourced, are adequately funded. And again, this morning, we will start this process. We have a mayor who has heaped cut upon cut upon cut upon our schools to where they're functioning at bare bones. You have teachers who are bringing toilet paper to school. You have teachers who are bringing hand sanitizer and soap to school. You have teachers who are bringing snacks into school. You have students with special needs who are taking their classes under stairwells. You have classrooms where you have 40 students attempting to learn. We have a broken system, and the system has been broken on purpose. And we need to fix that, and we need to fix it now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a series of speakers who are going to share what it is that they're doing and what it is that we are doing going forward to fix this problem. The first speaker this morning is Alderman Cardenas from the 12th Ward.
Thank you. Thank you. As you know, the problem in the schools has been funding. Springfield has done part of the solution, but more must be done. When I went back to the community just yesterday, we had a big meeting. It's a couple of big meetings that we had, and people wanted to know what was going to happen to their schools and the children that go to those schools. Parents were concerned, as they've been concerned for quite some time. The uncertainty that they're facing does not help. Along the lines of double-digit increased property taxes that they also face. And they ask, why? Why, Alderman, do I get in one hand a bill that tells me I have to pay more, and I get a notice on the other end that tells me my children is getting less? I pay more, I get less. Less programming, less opportunities, less for summer programs. So what are we going to do as a society and as a community to make sure that gets redressed? Part of the work we've been doing with CTU is addressing what I just said. The surplus that we've declared over the last few years has given an opportunity for the city and the public system, the schools, to have a little short-term cash infusion so they can operate. We're doing that again in light of the clerk's declaration that this year, an additional from the year before, an increase of $89 million to TIFs has come in. That is good news for the schools as we set out on this process of redress. We also want to take an opportunity to look at the calculation of how do we do surpluses and rejig that a little bit so that we don't have to do this every year, as long as the schools are downgraded from an investment standpoint when it's costing more to borrow and to operate. We want to redress that as well. That is really the emphasis on my end, a part of my speech of not just the short-term solution, but the long-term solution of the schools. My commitment to my community and this city is that redress. We must fund schools. We must fund community schools. We must give these students the opportunity to succeed. If they don't succeed, then we get violence on the streets. And this cycle never ends. And that must end. Are you with me?
Yes.
Are you with me?
Yes.
Can we get this thing done?
Yes.
I'm also with you. And I thank my colleagues for being here. I know they'll get a chance to speak. But yet, this is not putting blame right now on anybody. I did not come here to put blame on anybody. I came here with solutions. Solutions that matter to kids, that matter to parents, that matter to a community that's struggling in light of all the way that we put on them to make sure this city not only makes its commitment, but has a path to a future. So thank you for being here, and I'll let the next speaker speak.
Our next speaker will be Alderman Sue Garza from the 10th Ward.
Alderman Susan Sidlowski Garza, proud CTU member. I'll be very brief. If we cannot invest in our children's future, we are nothing as a society. Education is the key to our future. We need to stop giving money to corporations, and we need to start giving that money back to our schools.
Thank you, Alderman. Our next speaker, Alderman Carlos Rosa from the 35th Ward.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud to stand here today with teachers, parents, with students that are fighting for funding for our schools. Now, let's make one thing clear. Springfield has provided our city revenue that we desperately need to close the budget deficit at our schools. But it is not enough. As we work towards long-term, progressive, and sustainable solutions in Springfield, we need to make sure that our city is doing its part to make sure that our schools have the millions of dollars, the funds that they desperately need to keep the doors open, to keep the lights on, to keep educating our kids. Our city is embroiled in violence. Our city is in a moment of crisis. And one of the most important things that we can do at this moment is to fund our schools, to fund the future of our black and brown and white babies, to fund the future of our city. And that is why I'm proud to support this revenue package. That is why I and my colleagues will fight for local revenue solutions, including reinstating the employer head tax. That was a $4 per employee tax that was leveraged on large employers, like those that have 50 employees or more. Let's bring that back. Let's bring that back. And if we bring and reinstate that tax alone, we can bring in $100 million for our schools. Our children deserve it. The future of our city demands it. Thank you.
So before we bring up the next speaker, just want to underscore a point that's been made. We have an obligation to serve our communities. We have an obligation to serve our children. We all remember when 50 schools were closed, we were told that it was to help provide adequate funding for those schools that remained. Now here we are, stuck in a crisis that we can't see our way out of. Well, we're here because we do see a solution. Our elected officials have told you that they're standing up to demand that we fix things that are broken right now. So no, we won't lay blame this morning, but we all know who makes decisions. We all know who determines policy in this town. And so here we are, standing up, declaring that we will raise revenue, that revenue will go to our schools, that revenue will go to support our babies who need it. So our next speaker from Communities United is Cristina Delgado. All right. So while Ms. Delgado gets herself together, we'll have Michelle Leon, a student at Kelly High School.
Michelle Leon. Michelle Leon. 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 Hello. Good morning. My name is Michelle Leon. I am a freshman at Kelly High School and New LSC student rep. My neighborhood school goes above, My neighborhood school goes above and beyond with the resources they have for students, but it's not enough. As it's been told thousands of times, it's not enough. Having cuts in resources make it seem as politicians, people like CPS CEO Forrest Claypool and Rahm Emanuel do not care about us. I've seen firsthand that students have been losing interest in their education. Who can blame us if our politicians do not even try? On top of the budget cuts last year, Kelly High School is losing more money next year. Our mayor that we elected to office is not doing his job. How is this supposed to keep teachers and students motivated when they're being limited more and more? I have a 6-year-old brother who just graduated from kindergarten and is entering the 1st grade. My dream for him is to have the best education possible. He needs programs and resources to keep him out of the streets. His education is key, but I'm afraid he won't succeed because of budget cuts. Our resources are being taken away. As a first step towards equity, we are demanding that the mayor give schools a base of $5,000 per student to combat budget cuts. $4,087 is not enough. It is not fair that other school districts, such as Joliet Township, spend $13,876 per student, and New Trier Townships spend $17,724 per student. We aren't asking for much, just enough to avoid cuts this year and slowly begin to reinvest in our neighborhood schools. To do this, we need TIF surplus ordinance and other progressive revenue solutions. The Illinois Constitution states, the state shall provide for an efficient system of high quality public education institutions and services. I believe that it is time that our elected officials provide us with a high quality education that we deserve as a right. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Our next speaker will be Chirag Mehta from Agassiz School.
Hi, thanks. My name's Chirag Mehta. I'm a CPS dad. I've got 2 kids enrolled at Agassiz Elementary. I want to start actually by thanking the aldermen in particular for their leadership here today. Without that leadership, we obviously need leadership from the city council like we're seeing today to really be able to make headway. So I want to start by saying, contrary to CPS's claims that the budget that they sent us would not result in cuts, what we're now finding is that the new budget released by CPS is going to amount to a 7% budget cut, which only continues the trend of balancing this budget on the backs of school children and teachers. CPS's own numbers show that from 2013 to 2016, there have been $4.3 billion in cuts to schools. This is absolute outrage. What's also outrageous is that this comes on the heels of teachers, parents, students, and principals fighting in Springfield to shake loose what was a small amount, but an important amount of money that nobody thought we could win. We won that money in Springfield, and then they send us a 7% budget cut. It's an abomination. There is little doubt in my mind, and the minds of Parents for Teachers who I work with, that CPS is proposing these cuts in this moment to in part to pressure teachers to accept a contract that slashes pay in spite of the impact those cuts will have on the long-term quality of our schools. They are trying to pit teachers against parents and students. Our message Our message to CPS parents and their families is not to buy into this ruse. We must stand, as parents of school children, we must stand with teachers. When teacher compensation is cut, it cuts the quality of the quality of the education our schools receive and our kids receive. What's more is that teacher compensation is not responsible for this budget crisis. Period. Full stop. So given that, Parents for Teachers, like everyone else here, is calling on Mayor Rahm Emanuel to also help lead. Immediately release the hundreds of millions of dollars in TIF accounts, not just the traditional TIF surplus that we get every year, but we should be cleaning the TIF accounts and sending that back to the schools where it belongs. Additionally, the mayor and the city council should enact other sustainable progressive revenue measures like has been mentioned today, the corporate head tax, for example, and canceling Obama college prep to help fill the remainder of this year's budget gap, and then also start to work with us to figure out how to get the funding that we need, both from Springfield and from the city, to make sure we all have the highest quality education possible. I have only one thing to add. CPS and the mayor over the years has given us many reasons to call for an elective representative school board. I can think of no other reason besides what the budget CPS sent us and the dishonesty, frankly, from them to call once again for an elected representative school board now. Thank you.
So, Ms. Delgado, Cristina Delgado from Communities United.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Crescencia Delgado. Estoy representando a Communities United, pero también estoy representando a todos los padres que tienen hijos como yo, que son de clase especial. Ellos tienen todo el derecho de tener una buena educación. Yo soy madre voluntaria de las escuelas públicas y sé cuando ellos empiezan sus clases, no es una guardería en un salón de clases, es una clase regular como todos los demás. Los niños necesitan todo el apoyo y todo un maestro calificado para hacer sus trabajos. A ellos les califican, les moderan sus trabajos, mas no les hacen el trabajo los maestros. Los niños se esfuerzan en hacer sus trabajos y ellos necesitan el apoyo. Cada uno de los niños quizás tiene algún problema de aprendizaje, pero son muy listos en otras materias. No tienen por qué sacarlos de las escuelas. El CPS tiene que darle sus derechos de los niños como cualquier otro y tener sé que hay mucho. Los niños cuando entran a las escuelas públicas no saben nada. Cuando ellos salen del octavo, ellos ya son casi independientes, saben pedir sus derechos y eso es muy importante.
Her name is Crescencia Delgado, and she's a volunteer in Volta Elementary School and Communities United. So she's a parent of a child with special needs. So she's here because she's advocating for all those students that are part of special needs, and she said like, well, we need to start fighting. Okay, so yeah, so what she said is like we need to start fighting for all those children who are in special needs because the law is protecting them and they have the same right as the regular students. Thank you.
And our last speaker this morning will be Alderman RODERICK SAWYER from the 8th Ward. I'm sorry, 6th Ward. Sorry.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. This is a really difficult time. I've had an opportunity to speak with principals and teachers alike, and when principals have to make a decision between programming and hiring expensive teachers, that's just not a proper decision to have them make. We need to have both and, not either or. So we need to continue to push for adequate funding for all of our schools. We're not here to decide today about regular schools and charters. All of our schools demand high-quality education with quality teachers and quality programming. We want that for all schools in the city of Chicago. And it relates to Chicago public schools, it's not been happening. We've received some money from the state, but it's just not enough. We need to find more progressive and more viable solutions to increase revenue so that all of our schools can be adequately financed, so that we can give quality teachers an opportunity to teach in our schools. When I had a conversation with the principal yesterday, she was perplexed that she could not hire a 20-plus year veteran school teacher because she could not afford it. That's not right. So let's continue to push for adequate funding for our schools, make sure that we look at this revenue package because it's extremely important. Let's call on all of our elected officials, not just here in the city, but the state as well, to provide solutions because these are our kids. We should not politicize this fact. Educating our kids should not be a political decision. It should be an equitable decision for everyone in the state of Illinois. So let's do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman. Last but certainly not least, we have Alderman Tony Folks.
Thank you. I wasn't going to speak today, but I just wanted to just share an experience I had on the day before school let out. I had attended O'Toole Elementary School in my ward, 16th Ward, for the kindergartens. And I couldn't attend the party that they were going to have on the next day. So when I go into the kindergarten room, the first thing, it had to be at least about 86 degrees because the air conditioning wasn't working. The teacher did not have an assistant to help her. And she told me, she said, Alderman, I won't be at the party tomorrow because I'm going for an interview in Kentucky to get a job in Kentucky. Because she was fed up. That's not good. And this is what's happening to our teachers. This is what's happening to our residents. If they can't get quality education in the city, they move somewhere else. Last but not least, when I was in her class, they rolled in the lunch for the students. I had never experienced that the teacher had to stop educating to actually make the plates of the students in the class. And she was doing this all by herself because budget cuts. I felt so sorry for her. Sweat was running down her face. I wanted to help. She didn't even give me a chance to, she was working so hard she couldn't even talk. But this is what is happening in our schools. And I know that more of our residents need to be involved in what's going on. More of our parents need to be involved on what's going on with our schools. And when I say residents, because some people feel because they don't have kids in school, but you're getting taxed on it. So you might as well come out and fight and make sure that your tax money is being allocated the way it should. Thank you.
At this time, are there any questions from members of the press? Not familiar with that. Yes. Yeah, the aldermen have left to take a vote. Sorry. She asked about the young person who was shot.
My name is Stacey Davis Gates. I work for the Chicago Teachers Union. Stacey Davis Gates, Chicago Teachers Union. We've had 20 students since school started this year who have been shot. These budget cuts are unconscionable because you're not only losing teachers, you're also losing valuable social workers and counselors and clinicians in that building who are necessary to provide the type of wraparound services to help these children process that trauma. Quite frankly, we have a loss of mental health care centers in this city, and schools are the first and the last stop for many of our students who need services like that. So yes, that will continue to impact not just those who have been shot, but those who exist in families who've had violent incidences occur in their neighborhoods and within their family.
The representatives are here. Are there other questions? All right, thank you, everybody.